Good morning, everyone. Reverend Denese Schellink. I'm so blessed and grateful to be with you this morning. And I get to deliver the Thanksgiving talk. So, what a delight it is for me. I want to give a shout out to my brother, Ralph Whitaker, who did that amazing talk last week on amazing grace. Just warmed my heart. I know I did for all of you as well. And what a beautiful servant of God Ralph is. He just serves our board. He's a volunteer when he sings on Sunday with Zamar. And so thank you, Brother Ralph, for your gifts, your talents, and your continued contributions to the ministry. So blessed and grateful for our whole team. Beautiful job. So in all things, give thanks is our scripture teaching. And so when I think about that, you sort of think about, gratitude, even for this year, really, with so many difficulties that have taken place in our lives, it can be a challenge to give thanks in a difficult year. So this year, so much has happened. We've had COVID-19, obviously, and so many of us have been secluded. We've been in isolation. So many have lost jobs. So many have lost their health or, God forbid, even their lives. It's been a very, very challenging year. And for many of us personally, we've had some personal things. I've had, my beloved husband, Larry, had open heart surgery. We just about lost him this year. And we made the voyage. We left Hawaii, and that was hard. And we're now here in Washington. But we've had our own definite personal losses. And this country, oh my goodness, there's so much polarization. There's so much disruption in our election. Probably the most challenging, the most disruptive election I think we've seen in our lifetimes. Many of us aren't even talking to family members or friends that might be on the other side politically. We have lost the ability to have compassion and respect and understanding. And so what the other things happening, there's so many ministries, not just Unity, but around the world that have closed in our country, but Unity ministries as well. So this year has definitely been a challenge, absolutely. So not always easy to stay grateful in times of challenge, but it's a beautiful idea, and it's a spiritual principle and idea. Reminds me of a story of a rabbi. A parishioner came to the rabbi to ask for his wisdom, for his guidance, that he was living in a small home with 9 people, and it was chaotic and crazy, and it was making him extremely uncomfortable, and he didn't know what to do. So he went to his rabbi to say, what should I do? Should I kick some out? Just tell me what. So the rabbi thought for a moment, and he said, take the goat that's out in the back here with you into your house and allow it to be in your home, and come back in a week and share with me what happened. So he goes home, he takes the goat, and comes back a week later, and he's like, oh my gosh, this goat, it stinks, it's filthy, it's chaotic, it's disruptive, it's making our life so miserable, I can't stand it. So the rabbi says, all right, here's what you do. Bring the goat back to me, and then come back in a week. So he does. He goes home, takes the goat out of the house, and he comes back to the rabbi in a week, and he says, so how are things? He says, oh my gosh, it's so blissful. It's so beautiful. All I have to do is live in my tiny house with 9 people. So isn't it funny, that does life really have to get worse before it can get better, before we can actually notice that life is so wonderful? And so it's a beautiful story. So in Unity, in our movement, we envision a world powerfully transformed through a shared spiritual awakening. And so it behooves each and every one of us to do our work in spiritual awakening, to become the Christ. That's our goal. That's our purpose, to become the Christ, the one who knows who she is. And our spiritual tool that always supports our growth and spiritual awareness is becoming grateful for our life and to see that our life situations can be for us, that we can use every life situation to awaken. So Plato said this. He said, a grateful mind is a great mind which eventually attracts to itself great things. A grateful mind is a great mind which eventually attracts to itself great things. This grateful heart is actually opening the way to a flow, a universal flow of goodness, an attractive force that draws to itself great things. So it's a principle that we can live by. So gratitude is not a reactionary emotion that everything out here is so beautiful and that we're feeling grateful, but it's really a causative effect. So gratitude is this soul vision. It is a soul vision of getting that my life is orchestrated by something so much greater than this world, that my God is so much bigger than these life circumstances. And it's trusting in our primary truth and principle. And that is our very first principle. There is one presence and one, let me start again. There is one presence and one power active in the universe and in my life, the infinite living, loving presence of God. That's the truth. And when we get alive with that, when we get in tune with that, then everything that comes to us can be used for our spiritual awakening. That's our first principle. That's what we know to be true. And when we anchor our beliefs and our life around that belief, then it works. So whatever is showing up in your life, whatever is repeated in your journey of faith, it will continue until you see it as your own experience for your completion, your soul's completion of its wholeness. So we all have to walk in the wilderness in this world, this embodiment. We are at some point during this awakening, like the Israelites following Moses out of Egypt, we move out of bondage from slavery to the mind into a spiritual liberation. I'd like to read to you from our Unity Classic book, Lessons in Truth by Emily Cady. She says this: sometimes, somewhere, every human being must come to himself, herself. Having tired of eating husks, he will arise and go to my Father. For it is written, as I live, saith the Lord, to me every knee shall bow, and every tongue shall confess to God. This does not mean that God is a stern autocratic one who reasons of supreme power, compels men to bow to him, but it rather is an expression of the order of divine law, the law of all love, all good. So man, woman, who is at first living in the selfish animal part of himself, will grow up through various stages and by various processes go to the divine or spiritual understanding wherever he knows. That is one with the Father. And wherever he is free from all suffering. When we awaken, we become free from suffering because, she says, he has conscious dominion over all things. Conscious dominion over all things. We no longer believe in that the world defines who and what we are. Somewhere on this journey, the human consciousness or intellect comes to a place where it gladly bows to its spiritual self and confesses that this spiritual self, it's Christ, is the highest, is the highest. It's not this human self that experiences these lows and highs. So we must remain faithful in these times of uncertainty and change. That what is before us has been part of the divine plan for our soul's unfoldment and our evolution of consciousness. I know that to be true. I know that to be true. So there's a beautiful story that Anne Frank told through the Holocaust. And she had contact with a couple of other women in the Holocaust. And they were doing some scripture reading. And they read, "In all things give thanks." And they remained faithful throughout this horrific experience that they had to endure. So these two women that were imprisoned during the Holocaust, their room was filled with fleas and a lot of people to live in this very small quarters. Although they were miserable, they really continued to pray and give thanks to God for their lives. And one of them said, "Even for the fleas?" Yes, even for the fleas. And so they continued their grateful prayers. And it became obvious that one day they discovered that it had been many days, if not weeks, that they were not disturbed by the guards who used to come in and torture or abuse these women. And after a few weeks of being left alone, they overheard one of the guards saying that, "I'm not going in there because it's just full of fleas." So they were given solitude, they were given freedom, they were being left alone because of these fleas. And so we can give thanks even in the tragedies. There's a beautiful poem by Rumi that you may have heard. It's called "The Guest House." And it says this: "This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meaningness, some momentary awareness that comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome, entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house. Empty it of furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door, laughing, and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond." So when we live in that realm of knowing that God is the source of our good, that this force that we know as this infinite presence wants us to succeed, wants us to express our God-given talents, wants us to evolve into our Christed nature, then we begin to relax. We can use all of life's circumstances to awaken, because we can see that for every experience, our soul's completion is about wholeness. It's not about being right or having an outcome come out a certain way, but about knowing who we are and whose we are. So whenever something happens in our lives that we really don't want, we sort of instinctively sort of push it away. We contract. We naturally have a reaction to resist. And so whether it's conscious or not, when we're resisting that, we are contracting versus expanding. So just noticing that in our lives right now through this pandemic, through these challenging times? Am I allowing life to shrink me? And during this very polarized time during the election, am I so full of fear that I can't even be a beneficial presence to the world? Can I not see beyond these next 60 days or whatever it is? The more we resist, the more stuck we become. And what we refuse to see or feel really never goes away. We need to explore and inquire. It's a law of fact that we all know that every action generates a force of energy, sort of returns to us like kind, right? We know that what we sow is what we reap. And when we choose actions that bring happiness and success to others and ourselves, that fruit of energy comes back as peace and happiness and well-being. So we want to ask ourselves, how have we met disappointments and these obstacles in our lives? What strategy have we brought to our difficulties and losses? What spirit of freedom or compassion or understanding is still yet to be found in the midst of these challenges? So in each and every aspect of life, we always have a chance to turn the straw to find gold, right? That is our journey, the mythical journey of turning straw to gold. And so all that is asked is our respectful attention, our willingness to learn from our difficulties. So we can turn the straw, the difficulties, the angst into gold, into the seeds of wisdom, the seeds of peace, the seeds of wholeness that are within each and every difficulty. So when we work with what's alive in us, the feelings that are ignited through these situations, we get to acknowledge that they exist, and we can work with them, and we can transform them into this valuable medicine for healing, for understanding, for a deeper knowledge. We can use our feelings, this upset we might be feeling, this anger, this fear, this disdain, to see that our needs for inclusivity, our need for justice, our need for fairness, our need for honesty and respect are not getting met in this universal dialogue of our current state of affairs. And so we can give thanks that for this discovery, this inquiry, this new ways to have those values acknowledged. Inclusivity, justice, fairness, honesty, respect. What do I need to do? What do I need to say in order to create those values in my world? What do I need to do or say or be? So when I'm not offering those values to my brothers and sisters, what am I offering? I want to become aware of that. Where am I not? So how can I be that? So thank you, God, for showing me the way out of my suffering. It's not to get everyone else to change so that I become more comfortable, but to see that I must be the change I seek in the world. It's always that. The only way out of our suffering is to see that we can choose how to respond to life's circumstances. To know that the needs that we seek in the world are not out there, but in here, to be an expression of those things. So with practice, our awakening is possible with every activity. Our spiritual life can open this new dimension of self where each person we can meet can teach us, like the Buddha, like the Christ, and whatever we touch becomes gold, becomes rich, becomes a new awakening. I'm so grateful for this moment. I'm so grateful for this ministry. I'm so grateful for the people I am surrounded by, even if it's just virtually. I'm so grateful for my connection to family here in Washington. I'm so grateful for the people that are in my life that love and support me. So rather than focusing on, well, I had to leave Hawaii, that I'm here now, in Washington with family. So we want to focus on those things that bring us joy and know that everything else is just allowing us to rise above. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak and learn a language of compassion. I'm grateful for the people that join me on Tuesday nights to continue that nonviolent communication. I'm grateful for the Q process, these tools that really allow me to see clearly who I have come here to be and who I am not. That's an important piece, to know when I get triggered, when I fall into who I am not, I need to awaken from that nightmare. So I can be grateful for this upheaval, this polarization in our country that has brought our attention to know that we need to bring back our values into our own hearts, to see each other as the Christed ones, to respect and to be the change we want to see in the world, not waiting for some government, some political party to be. I want to be the change. And stop blaming everything out there for my own pain or suffering. The pain is not out there. It's in us. It is how we interpret life each and every day. So the question comes, how can I contribute to a world that works for all? How can I support Unity Church of Hawaii in fulfilling its mission of centered in God, of transforming lives and inspiring people to become a positive difference in the world? How exciting is that? So let us remember, a grateful mind is a great mind that attracts to itself great things. And this grateful heart opens the way to the flow that becomes this attractive force that draws to itself great things. And so we think people with grateful hearts are that way because everything works in their lives. But the truth is, everything works in their lives because they have a grateful heart. And so gratitude changes the way I see. Gratitude is having a God attitude. It brightens my life. It colors my world. It fulfills my life. It opens my eyes and my ears, and it lifts me out of a consciousness into seeing the good and the great in life. Gratitude doesn't change things out there. It simply helps me shift my perception and how I see the world. It takes my mind off of the problem, the appearance, and it focuses on the truth. God is always present. God is the source of my good. So whatever is showing in your life, whatever is repeated in your journey of faith, remember, we will continue to have these experiences until we know that our soul's completion is here to be whole. And so that this soul's vision is about gratitude, to be grateful that there is something here for us to awaken to. This is the soul's vision, the good and the great. Does life really have to get worse before we can be grateful? Let's try it the other way. We're here to prove the glory of God in our lives now, to know that this time right now is our lesson in truth. Right now is our lesson in truth. And I leave you with Brother David Stendal Rost's quote, "The smaller I make the container of my needs, the quicker the overflow comes my delight. So I love you. I bless you. I know that God is working in your life as he is in mine and in our world. I look forward to seeing you maybe on the Zoom classes, but hopefully in person soon. God bless.